So I am uploading part 4 of the Second Thessalonians series, and it rounds out the study. And in going through, there was a topical thing that I came across that I watched part of in the last couple of weeks, and then started researching the person that was talking about it because they have like almost 1 million subscribers. And I'm like, why would this person be using their platform to disparage other people? That's like a huge red flag. That's why we don't name drop on this channel, because negativity breeds negativity. And you should never use negativity to bond with other people. I hate that occurs. It's very heavy in like the workplace where people will bond over negativity, and it's usually negativity aimed at talking about other people. I despise it. That is why I will not, except for like Chuck Missler. You can name drop him all you want. And very few others that are of his ilk will I be like, yep, we can talk about them free reign. But there is no reason why we need to be using other people's names, because we don't attack people, we attack ideology. Not even attack, but we speak against things that aren't true. We don't use names, name dropping. Bonding over negativity is such a gossip. Like, we're instructed in the Bible not to gossip. Bonding over negativity is gossip. And I hate gossip. I hate it. So the whole thing kind of presented a different, and then going through the comment section, it gave me a whole new outlook on this whole pre-trib versus post-trib, or even pre-trib versus everyone else, because that's kind of what it seems like. It's all like regardless of whether they're mid-trib or post-trib or no rapture or whatever. It's like everybody gangs up on the pre-tribbers. And I honestly started laughing about it because I don't like all of this date setting. I don't like every single year, the vicious cycles about the feasts, and I don't like what people do with that. I don't. And I don't honestly think that there's any excuse for it. I think it's an addictive cycle in a lot of ways. And yes, people can become addicted to what should be a positive thing if it's used inappropriately. There was a comment that somebody left on my video that I did not leave up that talked about the only thing that keeps her out of anxiety is watching for the rapture every day. Okay, so that's actually an addictive cycle. If you are, it's a Bible thing. So I think that's kind of like, and this is kind of like the whole Bible culture online too, is there's an acceptable level of toxicity. That people are like, it's an addictive cycle, and if you don't have it, you'll get anxious. That's the key, that if you don't have something and you get anxious, it makes you anxious. It's like, that's what addiction is based on. So if not doing something makes you anxious, or it lights up your nervous system, then there's some kind of a bond that you've got with that ain't healthy. And it's possible to do that with biblical things. And that's why I don't like a lot of this intense rapture focus, is because it feels like it's too close to addiction for my liking. But it's not about me, whatever. Jesus, we are told to cast all our cares upon him, for he careth for us. Jesus, our rest is found in Jesus. We're to give over the things to him that make us anxious, not to set up these things as like idols in our lives and give us things to like quell anxiety. That's what people who drink do, is they keep going back to that because it quells their anxiety. And this is what these rapture forums do, is they actually breed anxiety and offer a satiation of anxiety by continual perpetuation of staying in these vicious cycles. And people don't see the harm that does, because the Bible is a positive thing. And so they're just really interested in the Bible, right? That's But I'd rather have people too interested in the rapture than drinking themselves or taking drugs or other things. So if you have to pick a thing, I think we're doing all right. And it kind of put it in perspective for me when you've got this acceptable level of toxicity with this in the watching community. I'm sorry, but that's what it is. It's become an acceptable level of toxicity because it's the Bible. You're doing it toward the Bible. Okay. But there's also what's become an acceptable level of name calling. And this is even more toxic behavior. Is you've got the people who will call others liars or false teachers or false prophets, calling other believers this. Those are names reserved. Those are identifications reserved for unbelievers, not believers that you disagree with. Like a post-tribber calling someone who's a false prophet for talking about prophecy. They're not prophesying. I mean, some people are, don't get me wrong. But in large part, people are simply talking about prophecy and giving their interpretation of what it says and talking about it. They are not prophesying. And this is what I have observed is the acceptable level of name calling, is to call someone a liar or a false prophet or a false teacher or a mocker or a scoffer. I call people fools. That's an acceptable level of biblical name calling, right? It's not. So I'm going to stop that. Even though I'm going to want to. I was like, nope, it's not foolish. I mean, foolish. Paul called the Galatians foolish. But that's more action-based, not identity-based. To call someone as a fool is about their person, their character, or rather foolish is about something they're doing or saying. So it's about the being versus the doing. So I'm just going to stop that because I don't want to be part of the group that believes that there's ever an acceptable level of name calling. There's not. It's toxic. And usually it's from the no, it's not. Even the mockers and scoffers thing is kind of new. All of those things are aimed at unbelievers. There's never an acceptable name to call a believer. You can identify actions that are foolish, but you shouldn't call people fools. I like to call people fools because sometimes I feel like they are. But whatever. I won't do it anymore. There is also a complete lack of self-awareness in the Christian community regarding the amount of grace that people extend and the amount of grace that people believe that they need. What I will say, and this is just observations, and it's kind of just given me a whole new perspective on this, is that post-tribbers are never going to have the ability to apologize for leading people astray. Pre-tribbers will, whether they exercise that or not, but they will always, up until the rapture occurs, they will always have the opportunity to apologize for the way in which they presented something, or getting people too hopeful, or pinning their hopes to a wrong day, or doing or saying the wrong thing, or doing it too frequently, or whatever the case may be. Such is the grace of God that this position affords the most amount of grace in the 70th week by sparing us from wrath, but it also gives us the most amount of grace to be able to say, hey, I should do that differently, or give people the opportunity to rethink and adjust and apologize if the need is there. Post-tribbers will never have that ability. By the time they realize that they were wrong, it will be too late to apologize. Post-tribbers, mid-tribbers, anyone other than a pre-tribber will never have the opportunity to apologize for being wrong and for all of the leading astray that they've done. This is part of the reason why the rapture is going to be pre-trib, is because there is so much grace that is undeserved, that is unknown, that is being extended to us all of the time in ways that we don't even realize and cannot even fathom. And God's grace is sufficient to cover all sin. And as much as the post-tribbers think the pre-tribbers are crazy for being repetitive watchers and pinning their hopes to dates constantly, post-tribbers don't do any of that. Simply backstab, call names, a lot of times don't preach the gospel because they believe that there's going to be time, because they're looking for signs. Signs that are never going to come because you're not going to be here when those signs are here, because God's going to remove you and you're never going to have the opportunity to take it back. You are never going to have the ability to apologize to people for not preparing them when that's what we're all supposed to be doing right now. because you think tomorrow's guaranteed, or you think there's going to be some other thing that you're going to see that's going to tell you that it's close. You are not going to ever have that opportunity. The Christian community is rife with problems because we are an imperfect people. But I don't want to be part of the issue at all. And I've had it put in perspective the last couple of weeks, just the last week really, since the fallout from the September 23rd thing. I said I wash my hands of that. I don't want anything to do with it. Because of where it came from and how it's been propagated, and the whole Feast of Trumpets thing is just wrong on its face. I've spent so many hours talking about this. I'm like, I'm just going to wash my hands of it. I don't want anything to do with it. But what it kind of led me to was seeing the other side of the coin and saying, I'd rather be in the group that tries too hard than the group that doesn't try at all. I'd rather be in the group that gets the ability to apologize than the group who will never have the opportunity, because by the time you would realize you needed to, you'd be in a glorified body in heaven because God's gracious to you too. And so I think that as flawed as everyone is, and as imperfect as we all are, and as much as our knowledge is always partial, we as people have the opportunity to decide every single day who we're going to be and how we're going to be. And much of this is a complete lack of self-awareness and the ability to self-reflect and to make everyone else the problem all the time. And sometimes that's the case and sometimes it's not. My challenge is to you guys to self-reflect, to continually understand on a daily basis who it is that you want to be and what it is that you want to stand for, what it is that you want to stand against, and just how you are going to emulate the principles of Christ. That doesn't mean that we let things slide or that we let things go or that we don't speak out about them. But we need to pick our battle and understand, if push comes to shove, where are we going to draw our lines and what side are we going to be on? And unfortunately, there are times where Christians do have to pick a side because we don't all stand for the same things. And in this day and in the lateness of this hour, that is so completely clear, so completely evident. So simply being a Christian in the eyes of God means a lot because His Spirit's in you and He's going to identify you as His at the time of the rapture. But simply identifying as a Christian on earth to other Christians who are infallible, imperfect people who are literally going crazy in myriad different ways in these last days, you need to figure out who you are and how you're going to be and what you're going to stand on and what you're going to stand for and what you're not going to tolerate and what you're going to distance yourself from. It's a crazy world we live in. We're not there yet. Every day is one day closer. But for the grace of God, go we.